no mai, hei mai, I Whangarei, the Thursday the 22nd of April. To open our meeting, we'd ask Councillor Golightly to open the karakia.
Tuia I runga, tuia I raro. Tuia ti nākau kia pātuki tahi. Kia kinihia, kia rāpua. Ti maramatanga, ti mō hioranga, ti hei wā Māori ora. Bind all that is above before us. Bind all that is below after us. Bind our collective hearts that they may beat in unison as we search out, as we seek after enlightenment and clarity and seize the breath of life.
Thank you, Councillor Golightly. Councillor, just a reminder for any items on the agenda which you may have an interest, please if you could declare those at the beginning of the item. We have apologies today from Councillors Peters and Murphy. I have somebody that those apologies needs to name. Councillor Comfort is moving, Councillor Innes is seconding. Those in favour, aye. Aye. Against? Carried. There were no requests for a public forum to our meeting today. So we'll move to item 5.1. The minutes of our meeting held on Thursday the 25th of March 2021, page 3 of our agenda. Can I get somebody move that they are a true and correct record? Thank you, Councillor Benny. Thank you, Councillor Reid is seconding. Were there any corrections or alterations required? I'll put that motion. Those in favour, aye. Against? Carried. Item 6.1. The update on management of the Northland Event Centre. Thank you, Dominic. Put them in the hot seat, Dominic and Jenny. Councillors, just before I ask for somebody to move the recommendations, can we note that in recommendation 5, we take out the second iteration of council, so it would read notes that if council decides not to proceed with a new trust, so we just remove that.
Your worship, declare an interest in the chairman of the current Northern Event Centre Trust.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Is that a conflict for you, or just?
Well, it's certainly not a conflict for me, but certainly an interest.
Yes, thank you. So we note Councillor Mason's interest and Councillor Benny.
My interest as a council-appointed trustee.
Thank you. So we have recommendations. One, that Council notes that the establishment of a new trust will be subject to consultation as part of the 2021-31 long-term plan consultation document, which we know is happening. 2, approves the trustee recruitment process for expressions of interest. 3, appoints the Deputy Mayor to the selection panel. 4, delegates General Manager's strategy and democracy to make any changes required to the trustee recruitment process prior to calling for expressions of interest. And 5, notes that if Council decides not to proceed with the new trust following consultation, expressions of interest could be used for upcoming appointments to the Northland Event Centre Trust or the process abandoned. Can I have somebody move those recommendations? I will happily move those recommendations. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Golightly, thank you. Dominic and Jenny, did you want to just add anything? I'll take the item as being read.
Probably nothing from my perspective other than we are working to very tight timeframes. Just reiterating that obviously we'll do everything in our power to keep things tracking to those timelines, but things are very tight.
Thanks, Dominic. Councillor Deming, question.
Are you able to tell us who the entire selection panel
The Chair is covered on page. So basically it will be myself, Jenny, and your council appointee. It's covered in here somewhere, but
Thank you. I didn't see
yeah,
it's reading the computer, so I probably missed it.
So any further questions? Councillor Topper.
Madam Chair, the way I've read it, and I'm glad that you removed the word council, because it just really didn't, I was trying to work out what the sentence was there. But item 5, doesn't that conflict with what we've made through our long-term plan? So shouldn't item 5 actually not be there?
My understanding for that recommendation is because we are consulting through the long-term plan on the setting up of a new trust, if we receive, if through our deliberations we chose not to do that, then we would go through a different process. So that's just to cover the eventuality that if we chose not to proceed with a new trust, that this gives us the opportunity to use that process for upcoming appointments to the existing trust. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. Or abandon the process.
Or, okay. Is that clear?
I was just wondering, because of the way the agenda is written, it would probably make more sense to not include item 5 on that point. And then once we actually go through the long-term process, it actually comes through as an actual. At that point, we then can decide whether to abandon or remove. But at this point, we just remove that section from the annex.
You know, I think it is important to be there because of the tight timeframes that we have. So we'll start the process of calling for expressions for interest for the trust, contingent on being approved through the long-term plan consultation process. So I think it is important that it is there. It's a staff recommendation.
And my other question was in relation to the selection process. I do hope that the staff will put more preference over people who have got working experience, or those in the selection committee will then put more pressure on those who actually have abilities to run a stadium or an event centre type process, rather than those who just academically are very good on paper.
Yeah, I think that's covered.
It's been written in there, but I'm just really,
I'm sure the members of the panel will take that. Councillor Cutforth.
Given that we're in and I understand the tight timeframes and that puts everybody in a very difficult position, but given that we are consulting, does not the fact that we are recommending a process for trustee recruitment, etc., suggest an element of predetermination?
Yeah.
So, through Chair, that was exactly the consideration. That is why point 5 is in the agenda. So I ran that past Graham Matthias, our legal advisor, and really looked at it as a call for expressions of interest. It is a non-binding process, and there are other pathways for council, i.e. either appointing to the existing trust, if that's the decision of council following consultation, or abandoning the process if that's the decision. So we've covered that potential predetermination by being quite clear that the process can stop at any time.
Isn't the mere fact that we're calling for expressions of interest suggest an element of predetermination?
But we're comfortable, through Chair, from a legal risk perspective, that there isn't an element of predetermination in taking this approach.
Yeah, I'm not thinking sort of legalistically, I'm thinking more in terms of the public mind, I guess. But anyway, that's my concern.
Thank you, Councillor Cutforth. So, councillors, as you've read in the agenda, this has been a long and convoluted process. We have been through a very thorough working through, and I was really pleased to see the process of all of the things that the working group have been working toward to get us to this point. And can I acknowledge their work in that regard, because it really has been, I would imagine, quite tricky at times, particularly reviewing the trust deed and reviewing the process and ensuring that the skills matrix that we're looking for in new trustees, should they be appointed, is all covered off. So this was a council decision to set up a new trust, and this is, we are following through. Clearly, the trust ends at the 30th of June of this year, which is why we are going through this recruitment process. But we did need, because it's a change, we had to consult through our long-term plan consultation process. I'm not sure that I saw many responses. I thought a few people did indicate that they agreed with the direction it was going, but it wasn't a wholehearted, either way. But there were some submissions that came through that I read supporting our direction for that. You'll note also that funding for the new trust, should it be set up, is included in our agenda item, and some of that additional funding is provided for in the long-term plan, again, without predetermining. we are looking at consulting through that process as well. You'll note in item 4 the discussion that the term of a number of existing Northern Event Centre trustees due to expire at this end of this financial year. So the trustee recruitment is required even if the council were to maintain the status quo following consultation, which is why I think there's benefit in going through the expressions of interest, because we are looking for the talent that we require around the trust table. You'll see that included in the agenda are the advertisement documentation, and there's a couple of sites that will be advertised through. So for governors who are looking for new roles, those are quite common places that people look to for governance roles. And then of course there's the selection panel, the criteria. So I'm pretty sure, confident that everything has been covered in it, and I'm confident to support the staff recommendations in this case in our motion. So I'll open up for any further debate. There being none, I will put the motions. Those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against? No. Carried. Did you wish your vote against to be recorded?
Yes, please.
And myself.
And Councillor Cochran. Carried. Item 7.1, the financial report for the 9 months ending the 31st of March 2021. We've got the 18. Councillors, we've got a recommendation on page 19 that the Council notes the operating results for the 9 months ending 31 March 2021. Do I have a mover for that recommendation?
I'll move.
Councillor Deming is moving,
Yes.
and Councillor Martin is seconding. Any discussion? Councillor Deming?
Straightforward, business as usual.
Any debate, councillors? Gosh, we're quiet today. Must have been our early start for some of us, getting up nice and early for the blessing of the Modi stone over at the Civic Centre. It did mean that our alarms went off slightly early this morning. But, and thank you to the councillors who attended that. That was really special. There being no debate, I will put that motion. Those in favour, aye. Against? Carried. Item 7.2, page 35 of our agenda, is the Capital Projects Report to March 2021. The recommendation is that Council notes the Capital Projects Report for the 9 months ending 31 March 2021. Do I have a mover for that recommendation?
Yeah, I'll move it.
Councillor Holmes is moving,
I'll second.
and Councillor Innes is seconding. Any discussion?
Yes, if you wish, if I could lead that off. But it's quite noticeable that we had an increased workload this year, and we expect the staff to be under some pressure to deliver, and actually it's really heartening again that I keep reinforcing that graph that they're showing, and it's really, really good. I think the red line on page 41 is trending very, very nicely, so I thank the staff for that. So that's a huge improvement what we've had in past years, but it's very accurate to what our workload was, so I think it's well done to everyone getting that where it is. And our ratepayers, when they pay their rates, they expect us to spend the rates as soon as possible. And I think we're doing a damn good job on that. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Councillor Martin?
Yes, it's interesting that when you look through the capital projects, and with all the meetings that we've had and the LTP, the transportation, the vast majority of people think transportation is about roads and cycleways. It'd be most helpful for people to see this list of what actually comes out of the transportation budget, like amenity lighting and all of the other bits and pieces, LED lighters, structures and all sorts of things. So the transportation is not just about the transportation, it's about the facilities that go with the transportation as well. And I think it's still shy on the amount we are spending on our roads. So.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillors, we had an incredibly ambitious capital works program this year. Compared with last year, it was a third more. And all credit to the team to get us to this point. It's phenomenal to have anticipating a capital expenditure of $101 million, given that we just spent in the middle 60s last year. That's absolutely incredible. So I really want to ensure that our team, thank you Rob for leading our the capital team through what must be some tough times, particularly given all those new projects that funding came in from central government, and it meant that we had to work even harder. So yeah, all my hats off to the teams who are performing incredibly well across the spectrum for the capital program. We've still got some work to do, and clearly we are going to have some carry forwards. That while that's unfortunate, I still think that the investment that we're making for our people is very impressive. Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just with the increase in CapEx that we're looking at pouring into our rating and all contracts, we need to ensure that we have the contractors on site and up to speed for our requirements. And I'm just a little concerned that we're not probably advancing quick enough in that direction as well. And that is going to lead to carry forwards if we don't have enough contractors available to do this work.
Yep, it's good to have that caution, but I think given that we've spent to date more than we spent in the full year last year, that shows there is contractor capacity, but yeah, it's a valid point that you raise.
I'd just like us to see that we follow through with that, otherwise we will have more than a little egg on our faces.
It's the relationships, isn't it, with the contractors. Any further discussion?
Yes, please.
Oh, sorry, was there a...
I was.
Sorry, Councillor Cooper.
If it was all right, I wonder if we run the risk of becoming victims of our own success in that we are raising expectations. At the time of putting this extra capital works in, we were told that it would be very, very difficult to achieve, but the team has raised the challenge, and it's wonderful that they have. Does that mean if next year we put in more and will the team raise the challenge? And I guess I would like to congratulate the team formally as Phil did when he moved the motion, but also to ask them how are we planning to lift ourselves for the next level, and is that planning being undertaken so that we can achieve some of these targets, because we wanted as a council, for example, to put more money into roading, and Councillor Reid alluded to that and pick up on that point, and it would be nice to think that we could in the future. So is that happening, and can we look forward to another raise in capital spending and a lifting capacity?
Of course we can.
Councillor Cooper, that will be up to us and what we set in the long term, but also, yeah, just bearing in mind that we have to be realistic about what we can achieve, and it's a good point that you raised. Councillor Holtz, you're right to reply.
Yes, Your Worship, and just thinks about that little train going up a hill. Yes, I can, but I charged off a challenge about probably 5 years ago to say that we should be lifting our game in this department, and be picked up by management, and they've really lifted their game. So it's more than a third improvement, it's a lot more than that. But we're at the stage now where I feel that council should be inviting a lot of contractors, of smaller contractors in, and just discussing with them about how we can package up work and put a bundle of work out that will help build capacity in our contractors' fleet. And that way, first of all, we need to do that because they need to have accreditations, they need to have experience of running contracts at that. And this is very similar to what Councillor Martin and myself and a few others did way back, probably 10, 15 years ago. But we need to do that again, because there's a lot of new contractors out there, but it's hard to get into the game. I think if council takes a lead on that, we'll get enough capacity to actually do a lot more work, and we'll have the trust, because we'll have our experienced ones out doing most of the big contracts, but the new ones we can bring in to start off that process. But it is very, very worthwhile, because out of those contractors we did get in, now they're a major contractor in the city and the district. You know? So it really pays off, so it's really good.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. I'm sure that those comments have been heard by our staff. The right of reply has been had. I will put the motion. Those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. That brings us to the end of the open portion of our meeting today. We need a resolution to move to extend. Councillor Martin is moving. Councillor Reid is seconding. Those in favour, aye. Against? Carried. Thank you to the team who are live streaming.